Does your partner love you anymore? Well, you've probably asked yourself that question. I know I have. I mean, your partner, might be going through a rough patch. And I mean, that doesn't necessarily mean that they no longer love you. However, there are some brutally honest signs, some obvious signs that, indicates they might not be in love with you anymore. So today I will share with you 3 signs that indicate or might indicate that they are no longer in love with you anymore.
Hello, welcome to another episode of Thy Truth. Finding your truth with Efemena.
How do you know that they no longer love you or they're no longer in love with you? Number 1, they are no longer affectionate. It's been a one-sided relationship for a long time. You've been the one expressing your affection for them. Someone who is in love with you will look for ways to be close to you. And I don't mean physically or, the physical touch. And then all of a sudden they tell you, oh no, I need my space. Oh yes, we all need space. There is a healthy space between 2 people, but this space feels like they're pulling away and slowly you're becoming invincible to them. Okay, back to the affection part. We all express affection differently, But when they change how they express affection towards you from how they used to, that is obviously a sign that something is wrong. It could be, physically or verbally. Maybe they don't, say they love you anymore. And even if they do say, oh, I love you, it sounds like Robocop. It sounds like they have it sounds like the I love you is void of any feelings or emotion. It sounds forced, And then they no longer make sweet or romantic gestures as they used to. They no longer, that kiss on the forehead or that touch holding you. It's, all gone. All gone. And, their libidos, it's like next to nothing. It's not what it used to be. They no longer want to have sex. They don't even want to initiate sex as they used to. Don't get me wrong, sometimes they want sex, but it doesn't feel intimate. You know what I mean? Pretty much your love life gets colder and emotionless. Pretty much. To me, those are signs. That's a sign that they might no longer be in love with you. Number 2, they want to spend time alone, or they look for ways to avoid you, to spend less time with you. Yes, some of us are very busy. We have busy lives, busy schedules. But someone who truly loves you would make time for you. And by time, I don't mean just being together and spacing out, You're there with them, but not with them. And then when you talk about it, or you ask them, I would like us to have to watch a movie together like we used to, or maybe we can go out. Nope, they would rather play games. I'm sure they'll make time for their games. I'm sure they'll make time to spend. They'll make time for their friends. To spend time with their friends. But when it comes to you, not so much. They pretty much abandon things that you both shared together or used to do together. It's simple. When we love something, when we love someone, our life gravitates around them. So when they start to avoid you, when they no longer want to spend time with you, I feel that's a sign that they're no longer in love with you. Number 3, which is quite important, lack of communication. Sometimes, it's normal in every relationship that there'll be times where you're both stressed out, you're both distracted, and at that point you might be disconnected. Sometimes you have those days where you just don't feel like talking, you're not in a talkative mood, or you just don't, you just don't feel like sharing with your partner. That happens. I mean, that doesn't mean, you don't love them anymore. It's just life, I guess. It's normal. But when you don't feel comfortable speaking about your problems with your partner, that's likely an issue. When you don't have that deep, when you can no longer have that deep conversation with your partner, when you feel like they're no longer interested with your own personal issues, they're not. You feel like they're not even listening to you. You're talking, but they are not listening. They can't hear you. They're right there, but they're not. And this is a problem because when you compare it to the beginning of your relationship, it wasn't always like that. So now they've become closed off. They no longer want to also share what's going on in their own lives. They're no longer interested in having you support them, or they no longer tell you how certain things make them feel. In fact, they're rather confide in other people than with you. You bring up a conversation, they brush it off, especially when it's about your relationship. They avoid the big elephant in the room when it comes to your relationship. They're no longer interested in working things out. They're no longer interested in hanging out with you. Or doing those fun things you used to do together. They simply seem to not care. And it's sad because in the process of all of this, you feel tired, you feel powerless, you get angry because you can clearly see that your relationship is failing, and sometimes we might be in denial, but that there is no longer communication between the two of you, and you can't do anything to make them invest their time into the relationship. They are no longer willing to put the effort. You can feel it. You can feel the weird vibe. You know it. And truth be told, it's time you confront that inner conflict within yourself and accept that they're no longer in love with you. You need to accept that quickly before it slowly kills your sanity. I recall questioning if my partner truly loved me. And trust me, it's not a great, that's not even the word. It's not, I don't wish that for anyone, to have to question if someone truly loves you, because it does kill your sanity, especially when you can't talk about it. You want to, but you can clearly see that it's a one-sided thing, and you're trying to reach out to them. You're trying to go back to the way things were. You know how the person was when you first met them. You know how in love you were. And all of a sudden, you can see them pulling away and you don't know how to get them back. Or, well, you can't exactly get them back, but you're wondering, what happened? What changed? How did we get here? In all of my experience, I think it's important to point out that sometimes just because they're no longer in love with you doesn't mean they don't love you. Being in love does not equate whether you love someone or not. Also, just because you're no longer in love doesn't mean, or it doesn't necessarily mean, the person is in love with someone else. Perhaps, something happened that pulled you and your partner apart. So, you can identify the problem, talk about it if you can, if you're both willing, and while you're at it, avoid assumptions and avoid accusations. Decide what you want to do next. And if you think you'll benefit from a relationship therapist, then go for it. Whatever you do, you can choose to rebuild and reconnect, or you can choose to leave. To me, if you ask me, like I said, every relationship is dynamic, it's different, but I would say that both options are valid, and they can both lead to healthy path they can both lead a healthy life. So, I wish you all the best. Thank you for listening.
Meet you again at another episode of Thy Truth. Finding Your Truth with Efemena.